And
And there we go.
all right, let's do this.
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. So I hate to bore the viewers with like some weather stuff from the Pacific Northwest, but are you getting cyclone bombs? Have you got a weather
Have
warning?
you
I've
have
never
you
heard of this in my life.
has it happened yet or
It's happening tonight at 6 p.m.
yeah,
Apparently, I've
us
never
too.
heard of a cyclone bomb in my life. This is
So
definitely the first time hearing about this.
I wonder if that's the same thing we had maybe 2 years ago.
Right?
Um and I mean we this is not an area for cyclones or tornadoes or
At
anything
all?
like that.
Yeah.
But about 2 years ago there was a tornado in like Bremerton or
Interesting.
and so all the kids, the
That's
whole
still in
school,
Washington, right?
Washington, yeah.
Yeah.
So just south of us. It's a big naval. I mean, it's the main like naval base. The
That's why it rings a bell.
and
Gotcha.
Keyport is also part of that, which is the nuclear submarine base. But all the kids at the school had to go inside into the basement.
Mm,
It was just around the time that we were picking them up, so anyone who was picking them up also going under and waiting it out until we got the all clear.
right.
And so that's maybe 10 miles or
Mm.
so, or 15 miles from here, although it's an
Wow.
hour drive.
Yeah, I mean that's how that
It's-
works. You're on an island, are you? Yeah.
yeah, there is no direct.
There's no direct.
Although and apparently in the '60s they tried to build a bridge that would have been
Oh,
almost direct, like, and
that's
it would have
pretty cool.
been great, but no, it did not.
I grew up around Prince Edward Island, and we created, I think, the largest bridge in Canada, at least at the time,
Hmm.
which is. Oh, someone's telling me. My significant other is telling me it's a bomb cyclone, not a cyclone bomb.
Cyclone bomb, cyclone. Okay,
Okay. Now we know. Perhaps a cyclone bomb is that this has already been taken. We've got weapons
yeah,
that create
cyclone
cyclones or
bomb.
something. I don't know,
That's right.
but it looks like they're going to descend quite rapidly. I guess in a short period of time.
Yeah,
I want to say 100 km/h winds is probably 95 or 92 or something like that, but
yeah,
quite fast
yeah,
in terms
yeah,
of winds for here. Nothing even close. Maybe it's 70. I don't know, but strong wind
yeah.
for
Oh
here.
yeah, yeah.
In my
Um,
brain, I'm thinking like I don't recall having warnings for weather like this. Like we've been getting a lot of weather warnings
yeah,
recently, and they seem to be not only timely, which is good, but also rather precise in terms of the time when they'll land,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
really interesting to me. Actually, it's like this is going to happen
yeah,
at 6 p.m. on the dot. Like really?
yeah,
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 like no, around 6:15. Like that's impressive to me. We can get it
yeah.
down to the hour. Like I
Except
know at night, but
the last time they
yeah,
said, okay, tonight we're gonna get winds 40 to 50 mile per hour gusts. That
right,
was like a week ago.
right,
Um, we have a little weather
like a
things,
vein.
weather vane kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's not. I mean, it records wind speed and temperature and precipitation and a bunch of other things.
Oh, my brain is lit up already. You can get metrics for the weather.
Oh yeah, and historic and the real benefit. I mean, you could always. I mean, you could just open up a weather app to see what's the future, but the weather apps never show what was it yesterday.
That's right.
And sometimes I want to know. Well, I know it's if it's colder than yesterday, I need a sweater. And I
Right.
near term memory is probably better than just hearing a number. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, do I need a sweater for that? And so this is one from a company called, well, the product is called Tempest.
Okay.
Um, and it's a really cool. It has a wind gauge, but there's no like spinny thing.
Hmm.
Um, and there's no collector of rain, but it does do a rain gauge. So it's pretty slick. Um, and but they said 40 50 mile per hour winds. The highest winds we recorded that night was about 9 miles an hour.
I was
So
going to
like
say your instrument could be
far,
plus minus
far.
10%
It's
or
usually
something, but
very
yeah,
accurate.
it's off by an
Um,
order of magnitude almost.
yeah, and in fact, one thing that's neat about I don't know how it does it, but it can record lightning strikes that are up to 20 miles away.
Oh, interesting. Maybe it's some sort of like optical sensor, that kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's not visible lightning. It can be so far
Oh,
away that you can't see it,
it's
but
got to
there's
be audio
some
then. Yeah.
charge. I
Interesting.
don't know if it's
Oh, like ionic measurement in the
ionic,
air. I see
yeah,
what you're getting
something
at.
like that.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
When
pretty
when
neat.
you were talking about do I need a sweater, have you ever heard of this? Do I need an umbrella? Or I think it's do I need the umbrella because I tried to Google it. Have you heard of this app before?
No.
So there used to be an app for Windows of all operating systems called
Uh-huh.
Rainlander. Do you remember
Oh yeah, yeah.
Rainlander?
I used to have that.
Yeah, so Rainlander had a little plugin called Do I I'm pretty sure it was Do I Need an Umbrella, but it
Right.
would be in English language, which I always
Yeah.
thought was simple. And of course it's just a bunch of nested ifs that make
Yeah.
it look pretty cool, but still it looks pretty handy.
Yeah.
And the goal is like before you leave the house, should you bring your umbrella or not, basically? And the same as
Yeah.
what you're saying. Do I need a sweater? How many of these layers are necessary for
Right.
today in the Pacific
And it
Northwest?
wasn't Rainlander because it was weather focused, but it was
Not at all.
Rainlander because it was, I think Rainey was the guy who wrote it.
Yeah, and they used droplets, if I recall
Yeah,
correctly,
that
where the little
yeah.
widgets were
Yeah.
called droplets or something.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, and it used
It
like
was at the
INI
time, I mean,
files.
first it was Nerd Tool.
Yeah, you're really bringing me back
Um
now. Yes,
and what else was there? Were a bunch of those. Was
yeah,
it
and there
Windows or was it Mac?
it was Windows, but I think it was trying to like emulate something that was on the Mac. I didn't have a Mac at the time, so
Nerd
I'm not sure
Tool,
what that.
Geek Tool.
Yeah, all of
Yeah.
those, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I think there's stuff for Vim as well that will go in the Powerline area that are
Right.
similar but not the same and written in the same vein.
Yeah.
Because Vim is obviously your operating system, not Emacs. Apparently,
Mhm.
I don't know. I digress. But I guess where I'm getting at is I wonder if I could easily build a better "Do I need the umbrella today" with some sort of machine learning. It's just my shower thought kind of thing.
Well, I mean, I use Carrot Weather, and
I've heard Carrot's pretty
it's
good.
often kind of gives like a snarky response sometimes, and it
Oh,
will also, if you have a weather station such as what we have,
right.
it'll incorporate the local stuff into the
Yeah,
overall forecast, and
yeah.
it's pretty slick.
And I think Apple bought that company, right? That would do the almost crowdsourced.
There,
They called it hyperlocal kind of
it was Dark
forecasting.
Sky.
Dark Sky, thank you. We always
Yep.
talk about this, but yes, I always
Yes.
forget
Yeah.
the name. The Dark Sky API using those little weather stations as like a global network
Yeah.
is actually really interesting to me as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, just as an average. Anyway, long story short, I feel like you collecting all this data
Hmm.
in historically, we could probably give some sort of accurate prediction mechanism
Hmm.
using yours and the weather
Hmm.
service, which I think is free, at
Yeah.
least in the US, where you can grab stuff from. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then combining the two, you might be able to come up with something perhaps
And
similar to Carrot with natural language, where you could just
but
like
I mean,
interpret this for me.
without the local stations, it's really hard to do any
Right.
sort of weather prediction. Like our
It's all
our
airports.
house.
Yeah,
Well,
it
in our
depends
house
how close
is
you are to the airport.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Our house is in on a bay called or harbor bay called it's Manitou Beach and it's Rolling Bay.
Okay.
Um, and main downtown is Winslow. The the hottest day, it'll be 10 degrees warmer on Winslow than it
Oh,
is our house. And on the coldest day, it'll be
right.
10 degrees warmer here than it is at Winslow.
Right. So it's more inland, I guess. And the further you go inland,
But
it will the type of
it's almost on the water as well.
interesting.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
it's
maybe it's just the
just
pressure
a different
systems or whatever.
microclimate.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
find that really cool.
within with the when we look at the like local weather apps,
Hmm.
you can see where the different weather stations are,
Right.
and so within say 2 miles here, there's maybe 15
Wow.
people that have made their data available.
That's really cool.
So
I
yeah,
like that. Yeah, and I'm not saying everyone should do this, but the more people do it, the more precise data we seem to get historically.
right,
And it
right,
feels like the historical prediction is what actually helps us out
yeah,
here. I think we talked last time about when this came up, farmers' almanacs and how
yeah,
sometimes
that's right, that's right,
embedding that into the data can actually be
yeah,
helpful, which is sort of funny. But yeah, I find that cool that we can grab sort of historical pieces of data,
right,
then what you see, so hyper local, as well as like what we get from the government, and combine them all to an answer that's what is it,
yep,
bespoke to
yeah,
Matt,
yeah.
custom to Matt. That feels really cool, and I'd like to see more of this hyper local kind of data. I guess is where I'm getting at. But yeah, the lightning thing is really interesting to me. I'll have to
Yeah,
look into that to
yeah.
figure out how they're doing it.
Um, a while back, I guess at the last either Prime Day or some sale, you bought a large battery, which turned out to be like the wrong thing.
It's on sale again for Black Friday.
Okay. Oh, the same, like not the right battery.
Well, the EcoFlow River that takes the extra battery
Right.
as well as that one,
Okay.
yeah. And the cheaper version for 300 Canadian ish, half price is on sale. So
I
I'm
saw that
looking at it.
Jackery is also doing like pretty
Oh,
much
nice,
50% off most of their stuff. So
nice.
some of their batteries that are normally $2,500 are like $1,200 now.
Yeah, and this is
The one with
non-trivial
like the
too.
6 solar panels.
Yeah, this is non-trivial too because the shipping costs. Like this is one of those
Mm,
things you want to get from Amazon.
yeah,
We had to pay the shipping going back. It wasn't too bad, but it definitely wasn't cheap.
yeah,
It was a fairly heavy
yeah,
device. Yeah,
yeah,
not great.
yeah. I mean that's the magic. I mean if something is, I quite often see like I can get it $10 or 10% cheaper if I go through the direct site. I'll
Right.
always go with Amazon because even if
Yeah.
it's like $20-$30 cheaper, the hassle, it's just so much easier, and it ends up being cheaper if you have to return. And there's a lot of stuff you need to return.
Yeah, and I'm really close to, a Best Buy, a Staples, these
Hmm.
places that would normally have it. In fact, I think Long and McQuaid rent them as well.
Oh,
But
okay.
it does feel like one of those things that I'd rather purchase than try to
Yeah,
lug and put in my car because they're
yeah.
quite heavy. But this kind of is it inclement weather, bad weather to me is sort of the use case where I'd want
Hmm.
something like this to. I don't think I need to power a microwave, but in a pinch, if I need to
Right.
cook a meal with a microwave or some sort of food processor in the dark, I actually could, which
Yeah.
is pretty interesting. Or to run
I think,
like multiple devices at once.
yeah, I mean, I think we actually, because we had the generator hooked up to the main propane supply for the house, we're good for, I mean, we can power the whole house for, I think, about a month. Um,
Wow.
and, but it's loud.
And expensive, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we fill the
Relatively.
tank
Yeah.
once a year, and it's always maybe there's probably a third of a tank left when we fill it.
Okay.
So we use about half to 2/3 of the tank over the course of
Wow.
a year.
Wow. And that's just
Um,
little brownouts or what have you?
um, yeah, it's sometimes I guess we
Hopefully it's not leaking. Like
no, I
there's
mean
no
there's
safety
been
problem
a
here, is there?
couple of
Okay.
times where we've lost power for 8-9 hours at a time, well, maybe twice.
Wow.
But then it's also the fireplaces in the
Gotcha.
house and the gas stove.
Gotcha.
Um,
That makes sense. Yeah. So you're
yeah,
powering more stuff with
yeah,
the
yeah.
fuel. Gotcha. That's really cool. But yeah, I'm tempted, honestly, to grab another one of these. And the better half, the brains of the family said, make sure it's the right model, the right version. And I did look into it. So
Yep.
it said it was 700 watts, and I
Yeah.
looked into it for what I wanted to use. I wanted to plug a 600-watt light into it for
Yeah.
out in the field, what have you. It turns out that a lot of these are per outlet, and it depends how they match. But like the outlets themselves will have a max wattage, and they were actually 300 watt per
Mm,
outlet, and that was 700 watts total. But you lose some to conversion,
right.
that kind of thing, unfortunately. But the ones that are I think 1100 watts, like 1.1 kilowatts, I think is
Mm,
what I was looking at, more around $500. But yeah,
yeah.
they're pretty cool. These
Yeah.
are all generally like LiFePO 4 batteries,
Yeah.
so lithium ferrite potassium, I think.
Oh,
Batteries, same as like a vape battery, as
right.
opposed to nickel metal
Right.
hydride, which is like the older batteries.
And what I thought was interesting was that apparently you can charge it up, like just plug it into mains power,
Yep.
and then they're good for a year. They
Yeah,
guarantee
yeah,
that they're going to be at 100% for a full year.
yeah. They won't lose power over time, which is actually really cool too. The different
Yeah,
types of cells. Yeah, my
yeah.
my understanding is they're very similar, if not the same, as like vape cells.
As what?
What are those? Like vape pen
Oh,
batteries,
okay.
whatever the
Just
nicotine
at a
thing that.
bigger scale.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
or
get
maybe just
1,000 vape pens and duct tape them together, and you're
no,
set.
no, no. Listen, we probably have
Powerhouse.
some Tesla fans in the chat, so I apologize. But my understanding is either like earlier versions or prototype versions of Teslas used like loops just gang together.
Hmm.
Like one up, one down, all
Mm-hmm.
the way through, and just like these big packs. And it was just you've probably seen those shrink wrap battery packs where it's just like
Mm-hmm.
a cable that goes through them, and then they shrink wrap that, and they put
Right.
some more together, and they shrink wrap that, and it was just like a gang of like
Yeah.
literal loop batteries when they first started, which I find pretty funny.
Hmm.
So just just nickel metal hydride
Yeah.
double A's. So I wonder if we're getting towards a future where we can use these batteries in cars, or
Right.
maybe we already are, sorry, as opposed to nickel metal hydride, because those I think have issues in cold, right? I'm thinking of like cameras that I used to have where I'd turn it on and it was minus 30,
Mm-hmm.
or I think it's minus 30 in the US too, but like
Right.
it's really cold and the camera won't turn on because the
Right.
batteries are just like, nah, this isn't
Yeah.
happening. Important when it's cold weather, like
Right. Right.
Pacific Northwest. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I never really had to deal with super cold, but then I feel like one of the folks in the documentation team
Hmm.
at Datadog lived in Saskatchewan,
Yes, definitely.
um,
Still
and
does.
we'd always learn of the what it's like in Saskatchewan and on the
uh,
like the group calls.
love them to pieces, but I gotta say, jogging in this weather to me
God,
feels like not one of those things that I would do
no,
personally. It just
no,
seems so risky, especially because it gets dark so early that
oh
you end
yeah,
up wearing a
yeah,
bunch of reflective material as
yeah,
well. Yeah, it's a rough life. But
yeah,
if you want to stay in shape and it's winter out, you're going to be running, which is rough.
yeah.
Yeah. Other than that,
I
anything else going on there,
I
Sharon?
thinking of running. There was a
Running?
video, pretty recent. Not that I'm not running, but
Oh, okay.
another video
I'm trying to
by
start.
Casey Neistat on
Yep.
his path to doing the New York City Marathon below like 3 minutes, I think it was.
Right.
And I mean, all his videos are amazing, but
3 hours
it's
maybe.
3 hours, not 3 minutes. Yes, three
Minutes
minutes
might
would
be.
be would
I mean,
be
3 hours is really
hard.
impressive,
Yeah,
honestly, having watched the same
and he
video.
did like 2 hours 58 minutes, I think, was his time.
Yeah, and he had like an Olympic runner, I think, training with him. It was fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Except that runner got had an accident like 10 miles in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Somehow I don't recall that part of the story.
This is the one that came out just a few days ago.
Oh, okay. Good.
And yeah, he's got this. I don't know if he's an Olympic runner, but anyway, a pace coach, and yeah, 10, 20 mile or 10, 15 miles in, there's somebody crossing the street with a luggage cart, and he runs right into it.
Only in New
And
York.
and but what's amazing, I mean,
That's
I think one of
awful.
the most amazing parts of the video is apparently this guy, he had to get like medical care to see his
Right.
leg.
Running
And
full
he
tilt.
still
Yeah.
finished in 3 hours and 15 minutes, like on this damaged leg.
Come on.
I'd be lucky if I could finish it in like 7 hours.
Finish it. I'd be lucky if I could finish it.
Finish it, yeah.
That is incredible. Wow, what a trooper. I don't know
Oh
if I
my
could do
god.
that.
Yeah, no.
Now, so I know you've been working out and doing the health
Yes.
thing recently, and listen, I appreciate it. I'm trying my same. I'm trying as well, trying to do the same thing. Maybe getting up to jogging at least, not
Hmm.
necessarily running. But are you measuring? I don't know. Is it VO2 max or like your calories or
Hmm.
anything like that? Because I'm a bit of the quantified self, but maybe in
Yeah.
recovery. I haven't been that bad lately.
No, but I should.
Okay.
But I'm not sure what the one of the best measurements that I've had done, I
Hmm.
guess, when I was at Microsoft,
Hmm.
and they had this program called 2020 with a
Right.
local gym called the Pro Club. And one thing they do is take a photo of you, take your
Hmm.
shirt off, take a photo of you at the beginning, and then
Hmm.
take a photo of you at the end, and
With
then
the
you can
shirt on.
see, well, the
Sorry, I
same
just came to see.
shirt
I know.
off in
I'm
both.
teasing. I'm so sorry.
Um, and then you can see there's this comparison of, and it was
Interesting.
sometimes the weight might not come down even though you're losing fat
Right.
because you're
Right.
gaining muscle, and muscle I think heavier than fat, and so
Yeah.
it's like how am I not lighter? But then you look at this photo, it's like, oh my god, it's such an enormous difference.
Night and day. Yeah.
Now my parents saw those two photos and said, but you looked happier fat.
Like a
Yeah,
jolly
yeah.
man.
So apparently, I had this kind of face with the at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could find a
Yeah,
fine line between the
yeah,
two.
yeah.
That
And
is
it
pretty
was,
good though, to
yeah.
show you the results. I think that's
Show,
a good
yeah,
one. Yeah, yeah, the visual results.
right.
One of the things sorry, I'm going to talk about work for a quick second here, but
Oh
one of
yeah.
the things that I often think about, dashboard. So ignoring products and stuff like that. You know how sometimes you might have a
Hmm.
heads up display and a knock or something like that. You've got
Sure.
that single screen, or maybe those three screens, or they might balloon to five or seven. But a lot of times, what's handy on those is like a photo of where you started, or
Hmm.
like a snapshot of where you started. And it doesn't need to be, up all the time, but it might be in that
Right.
rotation that you're flipping
Right.
through or something like that. But it is often handy to say like, hey, we launched this product 3 months ago. Here was the average or the mean average users going through the days. Like, this is generally what a normal day looks
Right.
like. And then this is where you are now. And it's interesting to have, you could do like split graphs, I think, on some products. Again, I won't mention any names, but there are some that can split
Hmm.
by time frame or overlay based on time
Hmm.
frame. And it's very interesting to see how quickly you go to a different scale on the y-axis. So
Mm.
you started this way, like maybe 10 users, that kind of thing,
Right.
but you're up to 1,000 or 10,000
Right.
users, and that's just a little blip on the map. But you have to actually show it to
Right.
show the difference between the two. Like this is here, but we're way up here. We've
Right.
done a
Yeah.
long way, kind of thing. And it can be a good way to show people like those snapshots as opposed to the
Hmm.
entire history, because showing the entire history is more difficult. But being able to show 2 points of time, like was it like X minus 3 months or whatever? So the same
Right.
time
Right.
frame, but 3 months ago, what does that look like?
Right.
And that was really powerful whenever I talked to, the C-suite or the VPs or the
Right.
directors, trying to explain to them how far we've come in this amount of time, or
Yeah.
maybe something stabilized. If
Right.
you're me and it's error rates that you're talking about, I find what you're saying is actually true. So the picture of now compared to the picture of later without the whole graph can actually
Right.
show you in stark contrast, basically, a difference
Yeah.
between the two. And
But sometimes
often
that
a
that
JPEG can do it.
that
Sorry, go ahead.
before and after the photos or the screenshot of the graph can actually look the same
Also
until you
true.
see the scale, and it's like,
Also
oh,
true.
it's, I mean, like my
Yeah,
number
this
of
is
views per
logarithmic.
video,
Yeah,
it looks, this graph for the month looks the same as it did 2 years ago,
right.
but it's such a bigger scale.
Yeah, and
um
you're hitting on one of the actual problems here, is that especially when you're launching something in North America, you might have that double bump user. I don't know what you call it. Like it's a pattern, I guess. So there's a utilization pattern that happens in the U.S. is that it's generally in the morning, so you have a bump when
mhm,
people wake up. But then there's a time zone bump. So the East Coast wakes up and there's a bump,
right.
and then the West Coast wakes up and there's a bump, and then the East Coast is on lunch at the same time, so it's a
Right.
little bit higher than the
Yep.
East Coast. So it looks like West Coast more important, but actually, if you look into it, it's a combination of the two.
Yeah.
And then right around generally supper time as well, you'll see another.
Yeah.
If we're talking about like a consumer product as opposed to
Right.
an enterprise product,
And then
you'll see.
Saturday, Sunday.
And then Saturday, Sunday might be actually
Yeah.
quite a bit higher or quite a bit lower. It
Right.
depends. We found at Smart Things that people would fiddle around with their IoT rule set on Friday nights,
Oh
and
yeah.
our assumption, and maybe this is being mean, but our assumption is that people would get home, grab a beer, and start fiddling with the code, kind of thing.
Oh,
Like that's and the
yeah.
fact that they're choosing us as their the Friday night activity
Yeah.
is IoT finagling or fiddling, that kind of thing is really interesting to me. Like when you've got that attention where the Friday night
Yeah.
activity is your product, you're in a really good place
Yeah.
and you want to stay
Yeah.
there as long as possible. And I mean, we kind of did, but that's one of those things where when you're, I guess it's like a platform when you're deploying or giving to your users a platform that they can get in there and get their hands
Hmm.
dirty. It feels like that sticky kind of content where they're actually spending time and enjoying themselves.
Hmm.
And it's honestly rare that I've launched a product like this where you get to
Hmm.
see these kind of results, but it's really cool to see.
Wow.
Yeah, that's my story about Friday night activities and
Mhm.
dashboards.
Well, regarding working out, I
Yeah,
just came back from the gym
that's
an
why you look
hour
so
ago,
happy. Yeah, you
and
don't look
I
exhausted.
am
You
exhausted.
are exhausted. You don't
As
look exhausted.
it was a hard day today.
Was it rough? Now, are you one of those you have to have your water bottle with you all the time? Because that's, sorry, I'm still talking about metrics here, but that's one of those things that a lot of people will measure as well, is like water consumption.
So I
Are you
do
like
have
IoT
my
water bottle?
regular water bottle,
Yeah.
like a regular Nalgene bottle, which my keys are clipped to, just so I
Okay.
can. It's mostly a key ring, I guess,
Right. Fair enough.
that I'm not gonna forget.
Right.
And but then on now I have this
Right.
bottle, and
Exactly.
that this is the one that lights up and syncs with
Yeah.
my phone and lets me know how far along I am drinking water.
So let me like just jump out of left field with a conclusion here. Do you drink more water on the days that you're exercising?
I do.
Okay. All right.
but I'm not tracking it as much
Oh, interesting.
because I'm drinking from that Nalgene bottle, which doesn't have any sort of tracking.
Gotcha. Gotcha. We got to
Um,
get you a
and there
Keurig.
are
Oh,
some days I will, if I remember to drink water, I will drink the amount of water I'm supposed to drink. But
right.
mostly I will not. I mean, I'm
Interesting.
lucky if I go through 4 ounces in a day on most days,
So
which
this
is
isn't a water consumption issue. It's more of a Matt
I
tracking
can't
water
remember. I
consumption.
don't remember to drink.
Remember.
It's like uh early on at Microsoft, they
Uh-huh.
had to hire somebody to basically remind Bill to take breaks, to take a shower, to all these like basic hygiene.
You're laughing. I am not.
Yeah,
My partner definitely reminds me, at least for showers, like, because I could easily go like skip a day,
oh,
basically. That's super easy.
yeah,
Skip two, a little less easy, but we
yeah,
can get there pretty often. She's like, you should have a
yeah.
shower.
I'm
Like,
often
before
reminded
you get
about
on the
showers.
podcast, perhaps your greasy hair could go, kind of thing, or maybe you need a
Yeah,
haircut. Those kind of things.
yeah,
I forget. I just get
yeah.
stuck in working on stuff, and I
Oh,
absolutely
me
forget
too.
things. Oh, we
Um,
got one comment here. Used to live out by the southeast of Gig Harbor. Oh, didn't hear that on Come to Visit for Christmas, so I hope it's not too crazy. Generally at Christmas is not too bad, honestly. It's generally
yeah,
mild, like
yeah.
sort of a little bit rainy, but not too bad. That being said, I don't know if I'm the farmer's almanac for this or what. Perhaps the fact that we're having it was bomb cyclones might be an indicator that I don't know what's more than a bomb cyclone. A
Yeah,
nuclear bomb
I don't know what
cyclone.
that I don't know what's special about this. Yeah.
I get it.
It's just I mean right now you wouldn't think that there's any windy weather coming soon because it
Right,
is
I'm looking at the window here, but
dead.
it's kind of the what do they call it, the calm before the storm.
Now, if you are going to get this bomb cyclone and I am getting
Right.
this bomb cyclone must be absolutely enormous.
I think there's many bombs.
Many bombs. Okay.
Have you seen there's a map of kind of the again something my partner showed me because they love weather, but there's low pressure zones and high pressure zones, and apparently
Hmm.
there's a massive is it atmospheric weather or river I think it's called, but there's a low pressure river coming
Mm.
through that's wide, and we're both in that thing that's swooping
Mm.
over us. I guess at the same time,
I'm kind of imagining because of the name of this bomb cyclone. I'm
right?
imagining just laying over top a video game of Minesweeper, and where we see all the
Oh,
different bombs.
oh, I like this. I think we're onto something. We
Yeah,
got to be
yeah,
careful with our ideas on this.
yeah.
It'll they start generating some video game that kind of looks like Minesweeper, but also has.
Minesweeper, but with
I'm thinking like
weather.
Civ weather kind of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Um,
I love it. But I do feel like as we're collecting all that data, as you're getting more data from your body, I'm still
mhm.
on this. I'm so sorry. And like drinking water and your calorie counting and the weather and all of this,
Mhm.
like these data points, we can now gobble up this kind of data set and make predictions with time series databases. I mean, we've got ours. I
Right.
think it's called Toto. But there are others as far as I can
Mhm.
tell. I think there was one out of China in terms of a TSDB that can predict things going forward based on machine learning, which I find really, really interesting.
Well, I think that's been offered. Some variation of that has been offered for a long time by
Extrapolation in
kind of
ML, for sure.
the value add for architecture firms,
Right.
where they sell the automation kind of platform where um, based on weather, based on where is it sunny on your building, which
Right.
side of the building needs to get AC turned on,
Oh,
and then link that up to uh, uh, activity of the employees. What temperature tends to be more
wow.
productive? You get more productive employees at which
Interesting.
temperatures. Um, I know
Interesting.
Tony has mentioned that kind of thing before. So
That's really cool. I will say that You know, you can tell when somebody's got control of the thermostat because it's always too hot in the fall when you come in from outside. You're
Yeah.
just dying. You get inside and you've got your 5 layers on that you're trying to
Right.
strip off as fast as possible because it's like it's 24 degrees inside, but outside it's 10. So basically, it's
Yeah.
a big difference. It's
Yeah.
cold outside
Yeah.
and it's fairly warm inside, like summer. And I get so frustrated and so
Yeah.
angry so quickly.
Yeah.
It's like I'm hot, but I do find like when we control that,
Yeah.
it's probably worse overall, but explaining that to people that like an automated system might be better is difficult
Yeah.
because they say you
Absolutely.
can't feel 1 degree difference, but I'm positive that some people can. Because like I've seen
Yeah.
it. You
Yeah.
just decrease the temperature by 1 degree and everybody's happy, kind of.
Yeah. There's um there's a song that reminds me of by I think it's 98 degrees or 93 something like that by Susie and the Banshees.
Mm, I don't know that one, but I do know Susie
You
and
know,
the
not,
Banshees.
not oh, you do know Susie and the Banshees.
Yeah,
But
but I
90,
don't know that
98
song.
degrees, I think it is.
Huh. I'll have to look this up.
And there's at the beginning there's 1 degree lower, 1 degree higher, people don't matter. But 98, people get irritable. Arr.
92.
92, okay,
We
92
found it.
degrees.
Yes. So for the audience, set your dials to 92.
92.
Now, sorry, I have to look it up. 92 FEC. 33 is quite warm. That
Mm,
would be quite warm for me.
yeah.
I don't know. My understanding of Fahrenheit is the closer you get to 100, the less comfortable things are, right? Because 100 is warm. It feels like you're boiling.
Uh, so it depends on. I mean, it depends on humidity as well.
True.
Um, there are. It can be 100. I mean, depending on a lot of things going on, but 110 degrees in less humid is not quite as uncomfortable as 110 humid, or even 100 super humid.
Gotcha. I will
Um,
say, having been to Death Valley a couple times, that did ring true when we were there because
mm,
we didn't notice it was warm, but we were
mm,
sweating a lot. I think we
yeah,
drank at least 2 liters of water each
yeah,
in a day, which is a lot, like a way
yeah,
way more than we'd ever drink. Interesting.
yeah. I mean, I've spent so much time in places like Dubai. I used to go there, 5, 6 times a year,
Right.
and to Singapore and to Cambodia, and all these places are hot, and some of
Right.
them are humid as well.
Cambodia is humid, right?
Cambodia is humid.
I
Thailand.
would
I
assume.
remember the first time I went to Thailand. It was uh, on the way to Nepal,
Hmm.
and we got out of the plane, and the plane kind of stopped not at the terminal, and so they kind of bring a like a pickup truck, basically a large pickup truck that raises its bed, and then everybody walks off the plane onto this pickup truck, and you're just holding on, and then this pickup truck basically drives you to the. I think it drove us to the terminal,
It's the
and it was
shuttle. There's a
outdoors.
pickup bus shuttle.
Yeah, and it was
Sorry, pickup truck,
outdoors, and there's no covering. But as soon
amazing.
as you walk out the door, you feel like this wall of heat and humidity,
Right.
and there's like, oh,
My first time in
yeah,
Palm Springs, it felt like I was walking into an actual oven,
yo, yeah, yeah,
like a maybe like a pizza oven kind of thing.
yeah,
Like when you're close to it, it felt like actual
yeah,
radiating kind of
yeah,
heat. It was very interesting, but it wasn't
yeah,
humid at all. So
mm,
it was comfortable, but also like stifling maybe in
yeah,
terms of heat. It's just very very very
mm,
interesting.
mm, mm,
So yeah, I think what we're getting at is so one of them is what we're talking about. Sorry, I'm gonna bring this into like a bit of a bow here. Just
DevOps.
my yes my thought process. Not necessarily DevOps, but like maybe business metrics. So I feel like when you're collecting all these IoT metrics, like if you're talking about how much water you drink per day, I
Right.
think the business metric what might be like, hey Matt, do you feel bloated or do you feel
Mm,
hydrated kind of thing? Or do you feel like you need to drink more? That's the
right.
actual metric. Like is Matt thirsty? That
Right.
might be the metric.
Right.
Or could Matt actually jog with this much water in his belly?
Mm,
Similar to the like, do I need an umbrella?
right.
Or like yeah, it's like the weather isn't it's gonna rain. It's like bomb cyclone weather. Like we need these human ways of explaining something to people as opposed to just the
Right.
number, I guess is what I'm getting at. It's like just because it's 92 doesn't mean I'm going to understand what
Right.
that means.
Yeah.
But if we said it's also humid, so it's going to
Yeah.
be you know, you're gonna perspire quite a bit.
Right.
So like definitely bring like thin layers that will sweat through or something like that. I feel like that's where we're getting at
Right.
now, where we can take a result and then spit out advice like Carrot, like you
Mm-hmm.
were saying with Carrot, where it's way more interesting to me, that human language part, than getting someone to read that chart on the
Right.
DevOps dashboard. There's your word that you're looking for.
Right. Right.
Like on your mission control DevOps dashboard, what people don't want is like something in their house that shows them like, hey, your weight's the same, but do you
Right.
feel better? Like, but something that could wake you up like, hey, Ryan, did you know that blah 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 blah, and give you like a kind of a walkthrough of your stats. I think that's kind of interesting to me, as opposed to
So
just the numbers.
another, I remember there was another Datadog dashboard early on in Datadog's lifetime, um, and it was in the well, at the time when there was the Boston office probably had 10 people in it or 5 people in it, and that was the only other office other than New York City, and New York had 30, 35.
Pretty small. Right?
Um, and maybe a little bit more because I think we're on multiple floors at that point. And uh, but all the bathrooms had basically 2 stalls, and we're
Okay.
getting more and more people, and so it was not uncommon that after
Ah,
lunch they're all full.
right.
And so one of the hackathon projects one year
Of course.
was
I
putting in
think I know where this is going.
sensors on the door to know when the door was locked or unlocked. Um,
Oh,
and then that information was fed into Datadog so that you could just look at a Datadog dashboard and know by the time you get to the, where will there be a stall available? Um,
I'm glad that's what you say, because my naive approach to this problem was like to install video cameras in every
yeah,
stall, and I
yeah,
was
there
like,
was
nope,
no
nope, bad
video
idea, bad
cameras. It
idea.
was just
Oh
a
no, no,
magnetic
no, don't do
sensor.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the
They got
magnetic
like a
sensors
latch
would
thing.
often fall off
Of
because,
course. Yeah, it happens. It's a door,
um,
and people will slam it.
yeah, yeah. So it
That's
wasn't a
really cool.
perfect situation, but yeah.
It, I think it's still a problem, by the way, depending on the floor that you're
Mm,
in New York, where you might need to
yeah,
like go up or down a floor or go to the next building
yeah,
or something like that.
yeah. For a long time,
Just because we
we
have
were
visitors,
having
right? It can
to
be really packed.
when the New York office had one floor, and then they were renting out the other floor from British Telecom.
Okay.
Was our landlord for half
Oh,
the floor
didn't know
because
that.
they owned Groupon,
Oh, interesting.
and Groupon had just moved out of there, and
Didn't know
so
that either.
and that's why there's all those egg chairs because Groupon had the egg
Oh,
chairs, and they didn't want them when they moved out. It's like fine, you can keep them.
wow.
Um, but
I quite
we
like
ha-
those.
yeah, I mean they hated. I think most people hated them, and so they
Huh,
just got rid of them.
interesting.
So the early ones are originally property. They were bought by Groupon,
Wow.
um, and then but we would go up to the other floor, which wasn't all us, and actually the bathrooms were um, on that were run by somebody else, and basically we were said you can't use
Interesting.
our bathrooms. And so they eventually put a key code on it,
That's so awful.
and every
Did they
few
have their own
weeks.
bathrooms? Hopefully.
Oh yeah, Datadog had their bathrooms as well,
Okay.
but
Okay.
this other company had their bathrooms, and they put on a key code onto it. But usually, anytime they changed the key code, the whole company knew the new key code
Of
within
course.
10 minutes,
Yeah.
because it was actually pretty easy to figure out.
It's also
Um,
pretty mean to deny people
yeah,
washroom
yeah,
access. So be like, I really gotta go, Matt. What's the code? I tell you, or like Ryan, what's the code? I tell Matt the code for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Any human would do.
Fine, you don't have you have a lock on the door. Great, I'll just pee outside.
Pee on the door. IT goes
This
rogue.
is
Oh,
um,
Daniel says perhaps they got the egg chairs as a
yeah,
group deal.
group deal.
There's a
Yes,
Groupon joke in here.
yes.
Did you
Um,
ever use Groupon? I've only failed to
I
use Groupon over the years.
I feel like there's been I feel like I have used it for one thing, but I couldn't say what it was. Um,
it always seemed to be the deal was sold out, or then the
yeah,
local business didn't understand how much demand there would be, and
yeah,
then on the day they couldn't
right,
deliver that kind of stuff. It always felt like there was a difference between supply and demand for the Groupons, where it
hmm,
was like a really good deal, but then too many people signed up,
right,
and it just wasn't didn't make sense, that kind of thing.
yeah.
So
Um,
I don't know if you've been watching any TV or anything, but I've got a recommendation for you that you may or may not like.
hmm,
I'll give you the easy one first. It looks like Yellowstone is starting up soon,
okay,
or may have already started up. So I think that's an easy recommendation for, if I recall correctly, somebody still on Paramount Plus.
yep.
All right, we got you there. The next is on Netflix, and are you still subscribed to Netflix, or did you finally cancel?
We canceled, yeah, a year ago, 2 years, a
That's what
year
I
and a
thought.
half ago.
Okay, so this may not work for you, but for those interested in Japanese culture, there is a show called Talentless Takano that I would highly, highly recommend.
Hmm.
It is a traditional Japanese office drama with all the trappings. So if you don't like overacting, that kind of stuff, probably not for you. It does have subtitles as opposed to dubs. So if that bugs you, maybe not for you.
Mhm.
But if you'd like insight into the way an IT company office politics work, I
Hmm.
don't know if there's any other show like this.
Hmm.
And if you're anything like me, you like IT office dramas. So I've watched like the IT Crowd. I've watched like all of them. Anything like
Yeah.
Office Space, anything about IT and work. What's the other one? Silicon Valley. Like any of these
Hmm.
stories, I
Hmm.
really like. This is like that. And the premise, just in case you watch the first episode and you're like, this isn't really great, it kind of feels like misogyny. So
Hmm.
it is about a female employee that they think is useless, but at the same time, it's kind of also about the role of different genders basically in the office
Right.
in Japan and how things are changing, including up to, because a lot of the titles and things like that in Japanese are gendered. So if I talk to you, I'd use like a gendered title, including an employee who uses the opposite. So it's a fairly progressive show, is what I'm
Hmm.
trying to get at. While at the same time, sorry, I'm getting excited here. While at the same time being like really well shot next to the Datadog office in Tokyo, which I thought was
Oh,
pretty cool too.
okay.
So you get to see the Datadog office
Oh,
all
really?
the time. It's right by Tokyo Station as well, which is a really cool part of Tokyo. So at the very least, if you watch the first episode, there'll be some cool stuff for like Japanese
Is
Datadog employees.
Datadog ever shown in? Is the Datadog app shown?
No. Now, I will say something interesting that I got in trouble for the last time I was at the office when I didn't have my badge on. I walked into the building and I was taking photos of the like the employer list
Uh huh.
on the building, and I actually got in trouble from security. They're like, you can't be taking these photos. It's kind of like it's not supposed to be known, which I thought was interesting because
Hmm.
here the tenants of a building is like not a
Oh,
big deal
yeah.
kind of thing. But apparently it was a big deal there. So I would assume that they would not show the tenants of the building as a
Hmm.
result, just based on like what the
Right.
security guard told
Right.
me. But it is actually a pretty cool building. In fact,
Hmm.
most of the buildings around there are fairly important. I thought it was great. So the show has like nice overview looks of the Tokyo train station, Tokyo
Hmm.
Station itself on the
Hmm.
ground as well. Anyway, cool stuff, but also a lot about IT, and
Hmm.
specifically, I don't know if you've ever done consulting, but specifically having sales come to you with the dumbest requests for apps that you've got to build, like last week. Like,
Yeah.
can you
Yeah.
build me a CRM? Like,
Yeah.
no, I'm
No.
not building you a CRM. Go grab, was it Sugar CRM or whatever
Yeah.
open source one
Yeah.
is, and we can extend it, kind of thing. But it comes up multiple times. We're talking about like to do items, or things like managing employees or CRM data systems. But
Hmm.
these kind of common requests that you get within a consulting firm for software, and then the fighting between the sales team and the
Hmm.
dev team, I find sort of transcends the language and the complaints that they're having.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool from a bunch of different angles. It's
Right.
not the IT crowd. It's a pale comparison, but I feel like it at least lives up to like 30% of the IT crowd. So
Hmm.
worth a watch on those
Well,
merits alone.
I was thinking of the other time Datadog actually has made it into a show.
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, it's in Silicon Valley.
What?
The TV series Silicon Valley.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go back. I love that show. I
So
mean, it's
it's
terrible, but I
at,
love it. Yeah.
it's like is it something that a Datadog person wants to put, like share it with people? Like, oh, we're great, we're in Silicon Valley. Oh, that's what we're being used for.
Now, do you know who the
It's
consultant was for that show?
no.
It's Jess Frizzell. She was their IT
Oh,
consultant.
okay.
So I wonder if yeah, I wonder if there's a
Well, it was
maybe a thank you but no thanks kind of thing for thanks for
it,
including us in
they
the show,
used
but yeah, it's been
Datadog to track. There was something about pedophiles in it, and so they were
oh
using
no,
Datadog to track the
we're
pedophiles.
gonna get demonetized. We're screwed now. That's
So
awful.
yeah, yeah, it was like, oh yeah, we're oh no,
Oh,
no.
in the worst possible way.
But you can see it very clearly. I mean, it doesn't say Datadog, but you can
The
very
logos
clearly
there.
say it is
Yeah.
Datadog. Yeah,
Like probably the color scheme of the bar
yeah,
chart or something
yeah.
like that. Yeah. Oh, that's that's really too bad. I was like, oh yeah, I'll definitely go back and find this, but no, I'm definitely not going back and trying to find this. This is awful, actually. Thanks for bursting my bubble there.
Yeah,
That was a
yeah.
wild roller coaster ride of emotions.
um, but then I saw that Silo season 2 started.
Also saw that, but have not started watching it. I did really like the book and really
Yep.
like the series, so I'm excited about it. Yeah, that's on
So we
Apple
watched the
TV,
first
right?
episode last night.
Nice,
It was
nice,
pretty good.
excellent.
But you said
Definitely.
Yellowstone, the full, like the
The Yellowstone, not
okay,
1880 or
right.
1923, but actual Yellowstone looks like it's
Okay,
set there.
so I haven't seen any of this show.
Oh, okay. So yeah, are you
Okay.
done with the other two? I guess they're
I've watched
prequels.
both of those.
Okay.
My wife hasn't seen 18 whatever.
I actually
So
enjoyed that one the most, funnily
yeah,
enough.
I
Yeah.
1923 just kind of seemed to like just end without. Wait, this is the ending?
Yeah. Like
It
what?
is like
I,
just
I
suffered
guess they're
from
trying to say
writer's
it just
strike.
goes on. Yeah, exactly. It just goes on, I guess. But I think it was during that time
Yeah.
where there was like a SAG, there was like a guild strike, I think, at the time.
Hmm.
SAG AFTRA, I think is what it was. The Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. Back in the day.
Yeah.
Again,
So yeah,
correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but that's my recollection.
I'm looking forward to seeing the regular show.
It's interesting because you know the past, but also it's interesting because like some of it has nothing to do with Yellowstone
Oh
at
yeah.
all. Like, there's no reason to have any of these prequels. I mean, I think it follows roughly a family line, right? But
Hmm.
but also, yeah, it's similar to like, hey, we're jumping to the jungle
Right.
now for we're hunting a lion. Why? You'll figure it out later.
have, have you seen the show Outer Range?
No, what is Outer
I
Range?
think it's on Amazon Prime
Okay.
here. It's
Oh,
it's a
interesting.
Western kind of modern day ranch, but
Mm.
on the outside of the ranch, all of a sudden there's a big hole
Oh,
that goes forever. And there's some sort of alien presence, but we don't really know. I mean, I've only
oh,
watched the first, maybe even the second episode. I have
yeah, yeah.
no idea what's going on. It looks
I'm looking at the cast
interesting.
here. Yeah,
Huh?
I'm just looking at the cast. Like Josh Brolin is the
Yeah.
main character. He's quite a good actor.
Yeah.
Very cool. I
Yeah.
like it. Is that your recommendation, or do you
I
have
don't know.
another
I
one?
mean,
You can have many
not.
if you
I
want.
mean, I haven't really seen it, and I haven't really seen all of Silo. Silo was
Silo's
it
an
was
easy one. Yeah.
weird. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say it was if this was the only episode I'd ever seen, and I hadn't seen this first season. I don't know whether this is
Right.
a show I would recommend.
Right. And if I recall correctly, the second book was kind of boring. So
Oh, okay.
if it's following the second book at all, because I think the first season actually had some of the second book in it, so maybe they're on to the
Hmm.
third now. But if it's following that, it's yeah. Oh, and then there's another one about Doom Prophecy. So I have
Dune
not seen
Prophecy.
this yet.
So what's
Prophecy.
that?
I think it's a TV show.
Okay. I
Yeah,
mean, it
season
says
one just.
season one,
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. I
season
think
one,
season one.
episode one. What channel is that?
I don't know because I saw a commercial for it yesterday while watching a football game, which never
Hmm.
happens. But I happened to be watching the Houston Dallas game yesterday, and there's a commercial for it. But I actually don't know what channel, but I can pull it up.
Is it as bad as the movies have been?
I like the second movie. You did not?
God, it was a
It's
disaster.
it's on HBO Max in
Okay,
Canada,
I
so
don't.
Crave. But yeah,
Um,
you'll
on
have to ask
HBO.
Remco
Okay.
how good Dune was. Is this a recommendation, Remco, or are you just saying that it's out there? Because there was just two dots at the end here. We couldn't even finish the ellipses. Lots of
uh,
effort spared on this recommendation.
huh.
Now, have you bought a Mac Mini? Have you bought a new Apple
I've
Watch? Have you bought a
not.
new Mac?
I have not
Yeah.
bought anything like that.
I do want a rack of Mac Minis, but that's maybe next year.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now that the M4 is like the first machine that looks like it's a significant enough
Yeah,
bump that it's worth upgrading from the
it,
M1.
it's faster than my studio, which
Yeah,
kind of, and it can support 128 gigs of RAM, so it's like a mini studio.
yeah,
I'm not saying I have virus remorse, but it is nice to see
yeah,
it so small. And personally, for my use case, I'd love to have ports on the front of the studio. It'd be
mhm,
actually better for my use case. But
yeah,
yeah, what do you
yeah. I'm tempted. I need to bring money in before I before I spend.
I think that's fair.
Uh,
Yeah, especially when right now, I think Marquez Brownlee said it because I guess he's kind of my thought leader.
mhm,
But he did say if you're on M1 now and you don't need more speed, chances are you don't need to upgrade. Like the
right,
difference was so stark between. I guess this is where that before and after picture goes,
right.
right? Like maybe these M4s are 2 times as fast as M2, but the M1 it feels like it's 10 times faster than a
Mhm,
Xeon chip, which is a really big deal.
yeah,
On top of which, a lot of the fanfare is around Thunderbolt 5, but we don't really have a lot of
yeah,
Thunderbolt 5 devices either. So it's a tough recommendation
yeah.
to get like something with Thunderbolt 5 on one of the MacBook Pros. But I
It,
feel like I might skip the phone, might skip the watch, might skip the all the devices this year.
well,
It feels
I'm a big user of Olama, and it for a
right.
lot of models, it seems to be right about double the speed, just shy of double the speed, which
Oh,
is
that's a pretty
pretty
good metric.
huge. And
Yeah,
then my
and that's
second,
GPU, right? Like
yeah, oh,
that's
yeah,
actually
yeah,
on the GPU cores.
and my second biggest use case is video
Edit.
production in Final Cut
Yeah,
and exporting,
it's
and
a lot
that was the
faster.
thing that he was interested in as well. So it's uh it's very tempting.
Agreed. Yeah,
But
I
maybe I can
said
wait
when
till the
M4 came
Ultra.
around, maybe.
I think the
Yeah,
Ultra, the Studio, it's going to be really hard to
yeah.
not do that.
Well, we'll see. I'm holding
Yeah.
off right now. Like a lot of what I'm using is I think Tyler Stallman went through it in Lightroom when you're doing really
Mm,
lazy things like Select Sky or like
yeah.
those Gen AI masking tools. Like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna say, listen, don't necessarily generate half your photo. However, if you want to select an area and there's a better selection tool
Hmm.
that can use Gen AI, I will absolutely use that. I
Yeah.
love being able to find outlines of people and like
Yeah.
actually change the background color without it looking like I don't know. I was trying to design a cereal box and screwed up hardcore. Like when there's like white outlines around people,
Hmm.
it just looks so awful.
Yeah.
But it does a really good
And
job
I
of
mean,
making
like,
gradient masks.
yeah, in
Incredible.
Final Cut Pro, the magic
Live.
mask
Sorry,
is just,
I'm really excited. Live gradient masks.
oh, okay, yeah.
Did you see those from Marquez Brownlee where he had like stupid logos bouncing behind him just to show off? It's
No, I didn't notice that.
it's ridiculous. I think it's in his
Okay.
MacBook Pro review
Okay.
from yesterday. So yeah, I guess if
Um,
I can recommend anything, it's like his channel reviews of
yeah.
those. I thought were
Yeah.
pretty unbiased.
Yeah.
But the masking, because he's got a little bit curly hair on the sides,
Yeah.
and the masking of like the
Is
logos going behind him for something done automatically was
it
like
So
stunning.
I also have MRoto AI, the motion VFX plugin, and I have the
The one that got
full.
Sherlock.
Yeah, except that not really. I mean,
Okay.
because there are some things that I have. When I wore this shirt in
Oh,
a
this looks
video,
impossible.
it couldn't. I mean, even though there's pretty good
I can barely
separation
look at it.
between.
There's a lot going on.
There's pretty clear separation between this and the background,
Right.
and yet it couldn't figure it out. But MRoto AI, no problem with it.
Yeah, so there's a thing at least in terms of like a JPEG, if there's a like a shallower depth of field, if there's edge detection that can come in really handy if you're doing it that way. And I think
Yeah,
some of the rotoscoping apps will do that. They'll
yeah,
find like the sharper edges.
yeah.
Very interesting.
So that was the one I did yesterday. That'll go out today.
Hmm.
Um, that was the first thing I found that where I'm glad I still have MRoto AI, because is that was able to do that, and the Magic Mask couldn't.
Interesting. The Magic Mask, the one that's new in the new Final Cut.
Magnetic Mask. Magic Mask is
Magnetic Mask?
apparently what they call it in DaVinci.
DaVinci Resolve. Okay, gotcha. But
Um,
you've got the new version of Final Cut, is what you're
Final Cut Pro,
comparing
yeah,
it to.
yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, folks. So we're recommending don't buy new Macs.
Oh,
and get easier shirts to rotoscope
yeah,
than
yeah.
a Hawaiian
Well,
shirt.
so we did buy something, and it just arrived today,
Uh
and
oh.
we're very excited about it. We're going to assemble it over the next few days, probably. And we just bought some new bookshelves. We're very
Oh,
excited about these bookshelves
yeah,
from a company called Rax,
interesting.
Rakks. You want to look that?
Interesting. Yeah,
The-
have not heard of racks. Are these IoT bookshelves? Modern architecture. I think someone in your family has architecture on the brain.
yeah. So my wife used to
These are
have
cool.
put these into buildings, and
Right.
they're just super cool.
Yeah, these are
Um,
awesome, actually. Huh. Now,
Not cheap, but a
right,
whole lot cheaper than what we were had been quoted
right. I mean, I've
for.
I've got a couple of the 3M ones that you just stick to the wall. I would recommend those for like keyboards, which is what I use them for mostly. But yeah, no, anything not bookshelves. These are really
Yeah,
neat.
so we're very excited to get those up. And then
They look really cool.
I just did a video last week, last Thursday, which I thought was pretty cool. It's not very popular, but
Hmm.
um,
Sometimes, yeah.
uh, on Obsidian, the basically the plugin I'm using with Obsidian to kind of stream output.
Right.
So as I'm typing, having it finish what I'm typing.
Oh,
Um,
I was thinking ASCII Cinema or AS Cinema or whatever
no,
it's
no,
called.
no. It will.
So it's predictive.
Oh, is
I thought I heard something.
um, no. So as I type, if I stop for half second, it will continue typing the next sentence,
Oh,
and I can just like tab over the next word, keep going until I get to a point where I don't like where it's going, and I start typing
oh,
again, keep typing, and then take a break of. I think I have it set to like 200 milliseconds. Then it will start, and it's a small enough model I'm using where it just works really, really well.
yeah, I'm awestruck. Have you ever tried that text cheat in iMessage or Messages app, I guess now, where you just type in you just hit the suggested words to create a sentence?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It sounds like that, but it's automatically doing it based on
Yes.
like, does it learn or is it just what's
It
canned in the
is
model?
just based on the previous text,
Okay,
and uh, it will, and it's not really well written plugin because it's taking everything you've written before, which at the beginning of the article is really fast. At the
right.
end, after like 1,500 words, it
It slows
starts to
down.
slow down.
Yeah, it's a lot of tokens.
Um, and So yeah, but for a lot of shorter things, it's magic. So I just turn it
Um,
on all the time, and it's great.
I think last week I recommended the Hacker News interview with Sam Altman.
Oh yeah.
I want to say, is it called Triangle Light? I should know. I should know what this is called. They've got a series on YouTube that I think I've recommended before. I was gonna see if I can find it. Sorry, but I would actually recommend this series that they've got. Not the Hacker News. Finding Hacker News on YouTube seems to be difficult. Um, Hacker News has a series on YouTube which I find extremely interesting. So it's four of the execs talking in a room. It might be
Hmm.
Lighthouse or Light Tower or something like that, where they're just sort of talking about the what's currently going on in the industry and what's interesting to them.
Hmm.
I would say that the most recent episode's quite good because they're kind of taking stock of where we are now and what's
Right.
working and what's not. I won't spoil it because I think it's probably of interest to a lot of people in the audience, but it's the most recent Hacker News video on YouTube. I
Hmm.
feel like, sorry, Y Combinator. This is the issue here.
Okay.
If I'm typing in the wrong thing. Um, obviously, getting the two things confused. Um, but I feel like this specific video might be pretty good. So it's called "Why the Next AI Breakthrough Will Be in Reasoning, Not in Scaling." So it's kind of around was it Raspberry or O1 or that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
then at the same time, they're kind of taking like a pulse of the industry. And I
Hmm.
found that was actually maybe more interesting than the goal of the episode. But it's the
Hmm.
most recent one. It was updated 4 days ago. It's on Y
Okay.
Combinator, all one word on YouTube.
Yeah.
Quite good, actually. Really thought provoking. Again, I'm not sure if I agree with everybody from Y Combinator,
Right.
but they're well poised to have like a like a tap basically on what's
Right.
happening right now in terms of startups, what's working, what's not. And I feel
Right.
like for the audience of the show, this might be pretty interesting
Hmm.
episode.
Yeah. I mean, Olama was a Y Combinator company.
Does not surprise me. Yeah.
Um,
All right. I, I
cool.
I think that's it. I'm out of recommendations.
Yeah, I'm out too.
You,
Got my
you
list.
tapped out. You're
Yep.
probably exhausted from your exercise. You need a
I
nap.
am because I'm also standing, so I'm like, oh my god, so tired.
All right. Well, you did awesome. Shall we find
Yep.
the end
We
screen
shall
button?
find it. Let's go for it. All right. Bye bye. Thanks everyone for the comments.
Thank you so much for the comments, folks.